Thank you so much for joining the Dr. Whisperer podcast show. I am your host, Sharon Feckety, and you are here to listen to others talk about the business of medicine. Don't forget to subscribe, share it with somebody else that is in the business of medicine so we can all learn together. Thank you for being here and enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, and I am back again, this time talking about one of my favorite types of medicine, Chinese herbal medicine, acupuncture, and beyond. Let's just say and beyond. And before we get started and I introduce these fabulous guests that I have here today, when I was in my 20s, as I mentioned before I hit record, my first introduction to acupuncture was when I was the director of operations for New York Medical in my 20s, and a neurologist had been screaming at me in the hallway, and we did Eastern Western medicine, and Dr. Kui from down the hall was going, "Sharon, come here, and he put these little balls in my ear, and I didn't know what the hell he was doing, and then he kept telling me I need to keep coming back to see him so I could relieve some of the stress that I was under working in a large medical operation and being yelled at for, quite honestly, no apparent reason." So with that, I would love to introduce you all to a fabulous team that is with Darius Rises. I almost changed the whole name of the college right there. Dragon Rises College. We have Karen Martin Brown, who is the executive director, Dr. Karen Martin Brown. And then we have Dr. Dorian Kramer, who is also very involved and the dean of this fantastic space that resides in where I live in Tampa Bay. We have 2 campuses. And I'm going to let them tell you a little bit more about it instead of me. Why don't we start with you, Karen? Why don't you tell us a little history about your fantastic space?
All right, thank you. So we started Dragon Rises College in 2001 in Gainesville, Florida. The teaching is traditional Chinese medicine, also 5-element acupuncture, but we have an exclusive curriculum called Contemporary Oriental Medicine. And this curriculum was created by Dr. Leon Hammer and his colleague, Dr. John Shen, both in New York at the time. And what they were trying to do was to get deeper into the mind, body, spirit connection and trying to get deeper into diagnosis and adding the psychological component to all diagnoses. So we have 14 courses that are exclusive to our college on contemporary diagnostic management, as well as contemporary Chinese pulse taking. We have had this campus open here in Gainesville for 22 years and recently had an opportunity to open a second campus in Bradenton, Florida, where we purchased a really nice 2-story building, perfect for our school. And we just opened our doors officially to students on May 1st of this year.
Yay, congratulations. And much closer to me, so I'm thrilled to hear about that. Great. And then, all right, so Dr. Kramer, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and how you ended up in this beautiful space of healing?
Most of my practice was up in New Hampshire, New York. I mean, not New Hampshire, not New York, in North Conway, New Hampshire, where I primarily worked with veterans dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, and I ended up treating a lot of psychiatric disorders. I also worked with a lot of addiction up there. It was at the time rated the second worst state for drug and alcohol addiction, especially with opiates. And
interesting. That's where I went to rehab.
Our county tied for last for treatment. So there was a lot of work to be done. Eventually, during COVID, my family and I decided to move down to Florida.
Yeah.
And I began working at another local school. I left there for ethical concerns, and I connected with Dr. Brown in a discussion about teaching. But due to my concerns, Dr. Brown really wanted to help out as many students as possible, and we discussed the possibility of opening up a second campus.
Mm.
We looked at in the Sarasota and Bradenton area, and honestly, it was a very long and weary road just to get to this point. Very hard. Dr. Brown was always there in support constantly. And we finally ended up finding the right building, the right space. She made the decision that purchasing the building would be the best instead of renting. We moved forward with that, and we had a hybrid approach for a little while, and now we are on ground. Our students are thrilled, and it's a great time here. We've got our student clinic opening and our professional clinic opening, and we're looking forward to helping the community in that way. And we have been working very hard to make other community connections to start spreading this medicine out to multiple avenues, including local hospitals, local treatment centers, and various organizations that serve marginalized populations.
I love it. So I think it's important because this is a show about the business of medicine. And my love has always been integrative health. And it's a much more common term than it was when I was in my 20s. But, all these years later, I'm still surprised about how little people and even other physicians know about the benefits of what you do and what you teach. And I think, especially because it's so ancient. I mean, you were telling me that I might have the opportunity to speak to a 98-year-old doctor of acupuncture, which doesn't surprise me at all that he is 98 and could still speak very well about this. Because if you want to talk about real wellness, real wellness is just completely woven through the fabric of what you are giving to the world. So, Karen, would you mind talking a little bit about your students that come? Let's start with them. Like, are they usually coming from a different type of medicine, or they weren't really sure what they wanted to do? I know that there's a lot of, when I used to go and teach about practice management into schools and scare everybody about opening a business up, there was a lot of like, well, I'm going to join a chiropractor's office and I'm going to hopefully have some synergy, or I'm going to join a massage therapy practice. And although those are great ideas, I always wanted you guys to just be solo, and have your own space, because it is such a unique practice that provides so much benefit, from anywhere from mental health to fertility. There's just such a vast education surrounding what you do. So can you tell us a little bit about the students that come to you?
Yes, we actually have a very diverse group of students. We have students that come right out of their associate's degree to our school, might be 20, 21 years old. They knew from the very beginning that their direction was for holistic health and healthcare and Chinese medicine, acupuncture. And then we had the far extreme where we had our oldest graduate started our program at 73 years of age, and it's a 3-year program. So she was 76 by the time she graduated. She had spent most of her life as a massage therapist and was finding as she was aging that her ability to do the physical part of massage therapy was starting to wane, and decided to continue her health career by going into acupuncture. But we get all ages. We get people, often we get a massage therapist, we get nurses. A lot of Western RN nurses will come to our program as well. We get people from all walks of life. I myself had no medical background whatsoever when I started coming to school here. I was always finance and banking and business and construction development and such. So, we get a huge variation of people, but all of our goal is to make people better and make them feel better, mind, body, spirit, in every way we can. And I think that answers your question.
Yeah, no, totally. And you said it's a 3-year school?
It's 10 semesters, which is 3 years plus 1 semester.
Okay, gotcha.
And it is a master's degree program. So our students come in with at least 60 credits from an associate's level, and they get 2 degrees. They get a bachelor's degree in health sciences, and then they get a master's degree in acupuncture and herbal medicine.
All right. So, Dr. Kramer, I'm going to throw something out there and ask you to debunk some of the myths surrounding the practice of acupuncture that some might not understand is such a disservice to our communities that we're trying to make healthy. So because I already know what they are. So what are some of the maybe nuances? Because, I have worked with, I've worked with neurosurgeons, neurologists, plastic surgeons, and I've heard everything about every different type of practice, right? Like I've heard the MD saying that the DO doesn't know jack shit. Sorry, I'm from New York, and that's how right. I've heard the massage therapist say that the acupuncturist isn't giving you the right information. You hear a lot of that. The mid-level, the advanced practitioner, there's all of this like competition sometimes, it feels like. But what I've always felt when I've been surrounded by acupuncturists especially is that there is a real sense of synergy and wanting to collaborate with like-minded people. So what are some of the myths, or some of the, just, I feel like it's like a roadblock to people to understand how beneficial the practice of acupuncture could be to any kind of practice it can be an extension of?
Well, I'm going to address that in the way that we have to understand that the research behind acupuncture, even one step back, is the language of acupuncture sometimes throws people off, the language of qi, yin, yang, and blood, but we can often think of that as just semantics. This was, even though we always hear that the practice of acupuncture or East Asian medicine is 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 years old, it wasn't a complete medicine at that time. It's been an evolving medicine over the years, and when we really look at it, it's a solid research-based medicine. The research may have looked a little bit different at the time, but it's still there, and it was always developing and always evolving. And when we look at modern research now, we are seeing that it's holding up. One of the examples would be that in our modern day, everybody's talking about cannabis, and that cannabis has a strong effect on the body. Can be very calming, very effective for nausea, vomiting, many forms of PTSD and other psychiatric disorders. The reason cannabis affects our body is because of the cannabinoids within the cannabis and their effect on us. The only reason they affect us is because we have receptors for them. And the reason we have receptors is because we produce what they call endocannabinoids or endogenous cannabinoids. And now we know from research that acupuncture actually causes the release of endogenous cannabinoids. So simply sticking needles in the proper points on the body at the proper time with the proper diagnosis can have the same effect as ingesting a substance that helps us. And the research is growing more and more in that area. We're seeing the understanding that the endorphins or endogenous morphines that we create can be created using acupuncture. We see that release of fascial tissue, which is now bigger in the news and people are understanding it more, can be accomplished through the simple action of inserting needles. And as we turn them, they wind and they actually pull the fascia, and then the fascia releases after about 15 to 20 minutes. So I think one of the barriers for many people is the language of acupuncture and not understanding that there is a very solid research behind it. If you don't mind indulging me, I just recently looked at a research article that blew my mind. within acupuncture and herbal medicine, we teach a lot of meditation as a self-treatment during the week. Part of meditation is almost always nasal breathing. And there are many explanations in the language of the East Asian medicine that discuss it, but there are now research articles showing that nasal breathing stimulates the nasal turbinates at the little ends of the bones here in the nose, which causes a release of endogenous nitrous oxide, which has antifungal, antibacterial, and antiviral properties, and actually increases the lungs capacity by up to 20%. So that nasal breathing that we had a fun language for has a very solid effect on the body from Western research. And we're seeing that all over the world of Chinese medicine, that now the research is catching up. And we're even seeing new fields like psychoneuroimmunology, which are developing, and many of them seem to be based in the principles of traditional East Asian diagnostics. It's a fascinating time.
It is. It's so cool. So when I was teaching my wonderful acupuncture and training students, my doctors of acupuncture, my goal was really to scare the shit out of everybody, because I really didn't think that anybody understood how difficult it was going to be to actually go out into practice on their own. Now, even joining collaborative practice, a chiropractor, massage therapy, an integrative medicine center, how difficult that really can be because of the ignorance I find surrounding the practice. I used to tell them, I know that you guys are totes cool with, the needle thing and the sticking the stuff in the ear and the cupping and the whole thing, but the humans, the people on the outside are like, what? You're going to stick a needle in me? So I always used to teach that you have to really consider the market that you're speaking to. And I would not be the market, but the people that don't understand what you do and what you bring, I would tell them, you'd have to, in your marketing, you have to talk more about how it's like a hair-like follicle, that it doesn't hurt. These little nuances were very helpful, because I don't think, just like every medical school, doesn't matter, nobody's really taught business. Maybe there's a little bit, there's a snippet, but you would hope that people go into practice on their own, because most of the time that's really the only way that they could really see the patient fully and wholly. Every doctor listening or watching knows that your traditional insurance only goes so far. Your malpractice only goes so far. So there's real risks that can actually keep you up at night. You know that. I know that. I've watched you stressed out the next day from all of these insurance issues. Well, SRA 831B admin helps you mitigate these risks and lower your tax liability by putting money into a vehicle that is tax advantage to self-insure risks that fall out of your traditional property and casualty insurance. I would not have them as a sponsor if I did not believe 100% that they can actually help you. So to find out more information, please check out the website that is in the show notes. Contact them today. I promise you won't regret it. This podcast is sponsored by Doc2Doc, the personal lending platform designed for doctors by doctors. Doc2Doc believes that traditional lenders overestimate the risk of lending money to doctors, focusing too much on challenges of their financial past and giving them insufficient credit for the promise of their financial future. Yeah, we love what Doc2Doc is doing within our community. That is for sure. And we encourage you to visit their website at doc2doclending.com. Learn more about them today. Right, Karen?
Yeah, let me add to that. At Dragon Rises, we recognize that problem as well, about such a small amount of practice management training. Part of what we do is our students have to do 10 hours of community outreach during the time that they are in the clinic. And they often will put on little seminars at places like libraries, the farmers market, retirement communities, where they'll explain that, the needles are as thin as a hair, and most of them don't hurt at all, and most of them you don't feel at all. They also discuss what acupuncture is and how it works, the herbs and the cupping and the gua sha. Also, while they're in clinic, we require them to do cold calling. So we have 2 scripts we give them a choice to use, and they call former patients who perhaps haven't been here in a long time, and they talk to them about wanting to bring them back to the clinic to continue their regimen of healthcare and improvement. So we also bring in a lot of speakers for lunch and learns, guest lecturers who will come in and talk to the students about malpractice insurance or insurance billing, or how to set up a corporation, or whether you teach them the difference between a corporation and L.Ac, a sole proprietor. All of those kinds of things. We have our bookkeeper that comes to teach them how to do some bookkeeping on how to build their practice and how to bill and all of that. So you're right, it is definitely lacking. Most of our students, I would say 50% go into private practice for themselves. The other 50%, you either go to a practice that's already up and running. Typically, one of our graduates will take in. Our graduates always want to hire Dragon Rises graduates because they all have the same Pulse training. And so our alumni are always looking for our new graduates to hire. Also, we have 2 graduates who work at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida. Others who work at UF Health, which Chan's. So, we see it growing, like you were talking about. We have Dragon Rises, through assistance of Dr. Kramer, have been able to obtain a externship contract with Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital in St. Pete, where our students will be able to not only observe, but eventually, after a certain period of time, will be able to treat the patients.
That's wonderful.
And Johns Hopkins is looking at needing a lot more acupuncturists. So that will be an open door for hiring our graduates.
Well, the New Yorker and me want to just blow this shit up. Sorry again. But in 2023, if we're not having a discussion on a podcast or talking about this stuff on social media, you almost might, like, if you tell me to go to a library, I'm going to be like, oh, I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. I'm not going to a library. I just had somebody tell me the other day, if you want to find out about all the associations that are in the state of Florida, go to your local library. I said, literally, immediately, no, never going to a local library, because we have all this access now. Like, we're on Zoom. There's 3 of us on Zoom in different places having a great conversation about how to get the messaging out quicker. And I think that that's sometimes a very big disconnect. Well, I don't think it. I know it because I've been doing it for 25 years, of what is taught and what is actually really going to help them move the needle. See how I did that? I'm kidding. I have to entertain myself. I don't know. This is we have to have some fun while we're doing this, but there's so many ways. And I think why I get frustrated about it is because I know it works and I want more people to know. That's why I was like, I want you all on the show, because I know people are watching and listening to the show. I'm going to cut it up on social media. I have sponsors out there that don't understand anything about how great and how big the business is too of acupuncture and, Chinese herbal medicine, and how ultimately at the end of the day, our goal is to help the patient, but we can't help the patient that doesn't know about it.
Well, if I could kind of add on to what Karen, we have the connection with all children's, and we're also looking at many other connections. The idea being that private practice is great for some people, but not everybody wants to go into private practice.
Sure.
When I graduated, that was your choice. It was private practice or private practice, which one you wanted to choose.
Right.
But now we're seeing it growing. As Karen highlighted, we have the connection with all children's. They already have an acupuncturist there, and they're looking to add more as soon as they can.
Did you say they had one?
They had one currently, and they're building off of that.
I mean, we got to start with one.
Yeah, you got to start with one. There's two at the Mayo Clinic. We now see that the VA, or the Veterans Administration, not only has done community partnerships with local practitioners, but they've also started hiring their own acupuncturists, and now have even recognized that there are doctoral level degrees and master's level degrees, and those with a doctoral level degree, which we will be featuring soon in our program, can be actually the supervisors for the master's level.
Nice.
We're seeing that in oncology all over the country. Oncology is now catching up with the effects of acupuncture. It really started a lot with Columbia University and their oncology department. Now we already have a small connection with one of the local facilities that's working with, has an oncology acupuncturist on board. And we're looking to get an externship there eventually. There's even been an exciting discussion now with a local university that does research for colonization in space and is starting to do research on how medicine is going to go into space. And we're talking with them about doing research with them, because space acupuncture, why not?
But you know, I guess I'm just frustrated because I know it works. So when you say one, I'm thrilled that there's one.
Yes.
But I want there to be 1,000.
So
right?
do we.
I know you do.
Start with one.
It does have to start with one. You're absolutely right. And I mean, the fact that it's, you know, there is an integrative medicine physician that works at Morton Plant Hospital that I went to see. And he's an acupuncturist, and he's been a phenomenal physician. And his it was fantastic. I was so happy that he wanted to talk to me about as a whole person, not just as what I was going, right? You both know that. We have to treat people as whole people, as individuals. And I was like, oh my God, there's an integrative medicine physician in Morton Plant Hospital. Well, hallelujah. But there should be so much more at this stage, right? In 2023, we should be so far past that. The fact that we can help women that can't get pregnant, that we can help people that are suffering from depression and addiction with acupuncture is, you know, it's just frustrating to me. So please forgive my like, let's blow this up, because I want it for everybody. I want more people to know. I can't believe in 2023 that I know people that have never had acupuncture. I'm like, what? Where have you been? And now, of course, a lot of it is because it's not, you know, you can't follow your insurance card.
Yep.
Well, all the physicians that I work with are cash-based. I pay out of pocket to go see my mental health therapist. My husband works for UPS. I'd love to share this really quickly. My husband works for UPS, which equates to having the best insurance policy ever. I could go to anybody that I want to at any time and get great medical care, but I choose to go to somebody who I know is fantastic. And I know that that person is not going to accept insurance because there's just limitations.
Well, you know, I will offer that. I mean, one of the things I love about Dragon Rises is we're always looking forward. And as Karen already said, we focus within the practice management, teaching the students how to work with insurance. When I had my practice in New Hampshire, I followed originally the cash only model. And then slowly I started talking to a biller. I started working with her. And I was accepted by just about every insurance going through there. And I would say by the end, 2/3 of my practice was insurance or insurance through the Veterans Administration. So I believe many of them are catching up. Now, insurances are always not fun to work with.
They suck.
Yeah,
I can say it. My show. I'm not.
They're not all that fun to work with, and they can be frustrating. But the very fact that we're being accepted in there, the very fact that many more base level insurances, not just the high level, high pay ones,
right? But at this point, don't you just want to flip them the bird about that? Like, really, you're finally accepting us? Like we've been around for how long? You've been around. I wouldn't know what to do with an acupuncture needle. Karen, I know you want to jump in here.
Yeah, I want to tell you some exciting news, though,
Yes.
related to health insurance. I read a long article a while back that in the state of Tennessee, Blue Cross Blue Shield Insurance, which is one of the biggest insurance providers in the United States,
Mhm.
made it is creating an experiment in the state of Tennessee. They are no longer allowing any prescriptions for opioids to be filled. And instead, the alternative is that the opioid patient gets acupuncture.
Yay.
So they are covering acupuncture in lieu of allowing prescriptions for opioids. They're running this experiment to see how effective it is of getting people off of this addictive tract and helping them get pain-free and the help with the mental emotional with acupuncture. And if it's successful, they're going to do it the entire United States wide. Now, if they do that, that is going to blow up acupuncture.
Yeah. Well, we're going to
Because-
need it anyway, because in Tennessee, we won't be able to have an abortion. So at least we'll be able to have access to acupuncture. It's crazy to me. It's crazy how antiquated all of this is. But I'm happy, right? Like I'm trying to be positive. You said there was one.
There's some hope. Yeah.
There is definitely hope, but we need to speak out and speak up about if you want to really hear somebody who's not happy with insurance companies, listen to Dr. Mudgill's episode, The Dermatologist. I think he said the F-bomb more times than I've heard a human ever. But from New York. But I think that it's thank goodness, it's just, I think I got the most relief in my 20s when I was the most stressed out by acupuncture and massage therapy and all the alternatives. And I've been able to integrate a mental health workout for myself for so long now because I know of the benefits of meditation, of breath work. But I learned all of this starting with acupuncture, right? And all of those worlds colliding and now having more opportunities for, there's a lot of functional medicine doctors, there's a lot of integrative medicine doctors, and they're the ones that I'm hoping when they listen to this, that they also get involved in hiring your graduates. One of the reasons I wanted to speak to you guys today, one of many, was because I have a very dear friend and former client that he's an integrative psychiatrist that had just opened a 10,000 square foot space in Sarasota that wants to hire acupuncturists. So we need this conversation because there are people out there that want to help that person that is just getting out of school.
We'll definitely give him our number because we got some people for him.
Good, I will. I'm just going to send him this show.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's wonderful that it's happening. So before we wrap up, and I'm excited that we're going to have this wonderful group of healers come back on the Broken Road to Mental Health show, because I'd really like to dive into more of the clinical aspects, because this show is about the business of medicine. But I do believe today, physicians, practice managers, whoever might be listening, anybody that's in healthcare, working alongside of this school would just be a tremendous resource for your patients, I mean, if we're in the business of medicine, ultimately we do what we do because we want to affect change with our patients and we want to help and heal our patients. So if we're running businesses well and we're integrating more healers and practitioners, then it's a win-win across the board. Is there anything that you want to add to that before we wrap up today?
Whenever it comes to working with other practitioners, one thing we want to be clear about is we're never looking to replace a medicine. What we're doing is exactly what you described. We're looking to integrate because we all can bring something to the table. I get into a car accident, my leg shattered in 5 places. I'm not sticking needles in it. Take me to the surgeon. Let's get this repaired. But then afterwards, that's when I incorporate the herbs. That's when I incorporate the acupuncture. Again, this integrative approach.
Wow.
Acupuncture can have great effects on psychiatric disorders, but we're not looking to replace talk therapy. We're looking to work with it.
Yes.
So it's always the idea of integration.
That's my ideal place, right? Walk into a space where there's an MD, an acupuncturist, a massage therapist, trauma specialist, a yogi, maybe a shaman. Throw in every type of healer out there so we could really get people faster healing, because there's so much healing that needs to happen, especially where we are in this world today. Karen, is there anything that you wanted to add about the college in particular?
Yeah, well, the college is, as we know, centrally located on 14th Street in Bradenton. We have a great clinic. We will be starting up our professional clinic very soon, which is our faculty who are also acupuncture physicians, most of which have their own private practices. They will be treating patients, and students will be allowed to observe. And we also, when starting in the fall, will have students treating patients. Very economically priced. It's $45 for a regular treatment for the student treatments. And if the person is 60 or older, a first responder, or a veteran, it's $35.
Love it.
So that will start in the fall. But in the interim starting this summer, we'll have a professional, acupuncturist treating patients as well.
That's fantastic. Well, I have loved, did you
One
want
more
to?
thing.
Yeah, please go ahead.
And also, if you want to be one of those people who's helping everybody, come on board. We're accepting new students.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. And I'm so excited that you're right in Bradenton. That's fantastic. That's super close to me. And I know a lot of people out there that I'm happy to share your information with. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Don't forget to mitigate risk. Visit 831b.com for more information. Remember to check out Doc to Doc, the personal lending platform designed for doctors by doctors.